You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think it's kind of tricky to project the backups for Syracuse basketball in the backcourt, but let's do it anyway, right? I think there are 4 players who project to fit that, right? Let's start off with arguably the biggest wild card on the team. Actually, I don't even really think it's arguable. I think he just is the biggest wild card, and that's Chance Westry, 6'6", redshirt sophomore. He's returning from last season. He didn't play last season. The season before that, he was over at Auburn. Now, let's start off with talking about what is good about Chance Westry, or what we've been told is good about Chance Westry. Number one, he's really versatile, okay? He can play point guard, he can play shooting guard, he can play forward. So he's incredibly versatile, of course, when he is on the floor. Number two, his teammates have said he's got excellent court vision, hence why he can play point guard. He can essentially be, if he truly is as good as what he can be, he was a 4-star recruit out of high school, he can almost be like a point forward. But what's his biggest issue? He doesn't play. Is he going to play? That's the issue, right? Availability. Some of it's not really his fault either. I'm not blaming him. It's just the reality. Dealt with injuries over at Auburn. Didn't play much there. Suffered a knee injury last season, or heading into last season. Did not return for the year, so he missed the entire season last year. We had high hopes for him, but he didn't play. He got hurt before the year started. It sucks, but that's just how it is. And then Coach Autry said, and I was really excited when he said it, that Chance Westry would be a full go. He's good to go for this upcoming season. But then, of course, he recently got sick. He has an illness. So he missed the exhibition game, and I hope he plays on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, if you're watching right now, in the next exhibition game against Slippery Rock. He got sick. I mean, guys are going to get sick. Guys are going to get hurt. It happens. I'm not blaming him. It's just we haven't seen him on the floor all that much. He's a complete wild card to me. I guess the most optimistic way to look at Chance Westry is whatever he can bring, he can help this team. That's the best way to look at it. I don't know what he's going to bring. I got no clue. I got to see him on the floor. And even if you go back to what he did at Auburn, I don't think it's fair. He was hurt, and he barely played. Let's see what Chance Westry is when he gets on the floor. He is a huge wild card for Syracuse basketball. Another backup is Elijah Moore, 6'4" shooting guard, a 4-star true freshman, better known as Choppa Moore. That's his nickname. He is known as one of the premier shooters in the class of 2024. This guy can shoot the lights out. For what it's worth, he shot 2 of 5 from three-point range in the exhibition game on Saturday. Now, I had on Jamie Shaw, On3 senior recruiting analyst, on the podcast back in April, and I asked him about Elijah Moore. And to summarize that all for you, he basically said very simple. If Elijah Moore proves that he can shoot right off the bat, he's going to play. If he can't shoot, he's not going to play. And I think that's definitely true. First of all, I think Jamie 100% knows what he's talking about. So, way too early returns on Elijah Moore. Well, he was 2 of 5 from three-point range in the exhibition game. That's 40%. If he shoots 40% for the season, again, it's a big if, but if he does that, he's going to play. You have to play him. Again, strengths and weaknesses of Syracuse basketball. They got one player who you know for certain is an elite shooter in Chris Bell. Elite shooter. Wouldn't hurt if you had a second one, right? Maybe that can be Elijah Moore. He just has to prove it. I imagine that regardless, he's going to get playing time in the beginning 3 games of the season. He's got to show out in those 3 games when he plays. He's got to prove that he can shoot in those 3 games. Because if he can, come the 4th game against Texas, he might have a big role in that one. That's all I'm saying, especially when the schedule gets tougher. He's got to perform, especially in those first 3 games of the season. I guess early returns are good from the exhibition game. 2 of 5 from three-point range. That's 40%. If he shoots 40% from three-point range this season, we'll all be pretty happy, right? Number 3, another backup here for you is Kyle Cuffe, 6'2", returning point guard. He averaged 3 points last season in about 11 minutes per game. I think Kyle Cuffe is decent enough depth. I think he's a pretty good defender when he is on the floor, but I don't envision him playing that big of a role this upcoming season, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number 1, you got a starting point guard in Jaquan Carlos, okay? So we can rule out that Kyle Cuffe is starting, okay? As long as Jaquan Carlos is healthy, Jaquan Carlos is going to start as the point guard. Number 2, there were times in that exhibition game when Jaquan Carlos wasn't on the floor that we saw J.J. Starling run the point. Again, you can take it for what it's worth. It's an exhibition game. But I think that does kind of tell you where Coach Autry is leaning right now. That if you don't have Chance Westry, who can play point guard, then he's more than fine rolling with J.J. Starling as the point guard when Carlos needs a breather. Because Carlos can't play 40 minutes a night. Can't happen. And then when Chance Westry does get back, hopefully he does get back, I imagine he will, I think he could be the backup point guard for this team. So where does that leave Kyle Cuffe? Well, he's good depth. And if him not playing 11 minutes a night this season, I think honestly makes the team better. I think that shows you that this team has more depth than it had last season. Last season, the team had no depth. This year, they have a lot more depth. So I don't envision him playing a huge role, but he's decent enough depth to have. And finally, let's talk about Lucas Taylor, a kind of hybrid guard or forward. I can honestly include him on Thursday's podcast when we go over the front court for Syracuse basketball. He is a senior, a transfer from Georgia State this last season. He also played at Wake Forest for 2 years prior to last year. So this is his 4th year of college basketball. Now, Lucas Taylor was in the starting lineup in the exhibition game. It was kind of a head scratcher. He was the starting small forward ahead of Chris Bell, and we're all like, whoa, really? I highly doubt it that will hold true for Monday. I just don't see it happening. I think Chris Bell is pretty much a lock to start as the small forward. I think he's a lock, but he didn't start in the exhibition. Lucas Taylor did instead. First impression watching Lucas Taylor is that he's really athletic. He had this one moment in the second half where he almost threw down a putback dunk one-handed. Didn't end up making the dunk. I think he was fouled on the play, but still, he leapt up there. It was a pretty big vertical, if you ask me, all right? Didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but he was a pretty decent shooter over at Georgia State and even in his limited sample at Wake Forest. So I think it's tough to get a read on Lucas Taylor. I imagine he's going to play some role one way or another. I think he's going to see the floor during this season. And I know that could be like a general statement like, oh, no, duh, he's going to see the floor. But I mean like he's going to probably have an actual role where you can kind of expect what he's going to do night in and night out. I don't know what it's going to be at this present moment, right? I can tell you that Jaquan Carlos is going to be the starting point guard. I can tell you that J.J. Starling is going to be the starting shooting guard in the backcourt. I can tell you that Elijah Moore, if he's shooting 40% from 3, he's going to play one way or another. Those are certainties. Now, Chance Westry, kind of a wild card, don't know. Kyle Cuffe, well, it's going to be tough for him to see the floor given the depth in the backcourt. And Lucas Taylor, I know he's going to have a role. I just can't project it right now. But that is your Syracuse backcourt for 2024-2025. Leave a comment in the comment section below your thoughts on Syracuse's backcourt this upcoming season. Is it an upgrade over last year? Is it a downgrade over last season? Leave a comment, your thoughts in the comment section below.